morning, it's Karen at Simply Living for Him. I am here to do my daily devotional. I hope that these videos are a blessing to you in some way. If they are, I'd love to hear from you. Share them with a friend and just let me know. So a while ago, back in the fall, my boys and I were studying in our homeschool about sheep. And I shared some devotionals back then because we just learned so much about sheep, but most importantly, just about the picture in the Bible of sheep and the shepherd, and how, Jesus is our shepherd, and all that symbolic stuff was so interesting. And then, of course, we were studying Psalm 23 at one point, and there was something I saw in there. I forget where we actually read about it. We read about it in an article or a commentary that was just so encouraging and something I had never seen before. Now, Psalm 23 is a very familiar passage to many of us. We've heard the verse that I'm going to hone in on many times, but I hope today to give you a little encouragement. Maybe you heard this before. Maybe it was something that you've always known, but I thought it was really great. So let's look at Psalm 23 because it's such a beautiful psalm, so encouraging. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not be in want. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside quiet waters. He restores my soul. He guides me in paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. For you are with me, your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil, and my cup overflows. Surely goodness and love will follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. So the verse that I want to hone in on is verse 4, even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death. But before I get to that, there was just a few things that we learned, and I may have pointed out in previous devotionals, but I just thought of it as I was reading. A sheep will not lie down unless they know that they are safe. And so this picture here of the shepherd taking care of the sheep, we are looked at in the Bible as we are like sheep, and Jesus is our shepherd. And because of him, we can rest, we can lie down, we can be still because we know that we are safe with him. Also, one of the things where it talks about he leads me beside quiet waters. I mean, how many times have I heard that verse? But I didn't realize that a sheep will actually not go near like running water or water that's more turbulent because it's scary. And so all of these things here point to something that, happens in nature, this relationship between the sheep and the shepherd, but how it points to Jesus is just so cool. And so the sheep will not lie down if it's hungry, if it needs anything, but it will lie down when it's content, and it won't go near the running waters. It needs to go near the still waters to drink. And then we hear in verse 4, even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death. And so many of us, as humans, we have the shadow of death. We have the reality of death either in our forefront, like minds. Some people can go overboard and become like hypochondriac or anxiety ridden because they're so worried about death. Or it's something that we try to push out of our minds. And I see that a lot in our culture, in our society. It's like, let's not deal with the reality of death. So let's just live it up here, and people are constantly kind of trying to bury that idea that our life will end. And because for many, it's an unknown, death is scary if you aren't sure what's going to happen to you. For the Christian, we know that this life is not all there is, and that, we can actually look forward to the day that we're with Jesus someday. And many of us live in fear of death. And we, like I said, we either have it at the forefront of our mind and it controls everything we do, all of our decisions, because we're trying to avoid it, or we push it down and suppress it because we're trying to avoid that reality. And as the Christian, we can live with the reality that this is what's to come, but it doesn't control us. And the shadow of death, this is the part I learned. So a shadow, like I'm looking out my window right now and it's a sunny day and there's shadows everywhere from the trees because I'm surrounded by trees. And, I could look at the shadows of the trees on the ground right now and I would know that there were trees without having to actually see the trees. And a tree branch could fall and I could see the shadow of that branch fall, but that shadow cannot touch me, cannot hurt me. The actual branch can, but the shadow, if it were to fall, just shows me the reality of the tree branch falling. And so the shadow of death, that phrase there, death is something that is real. And because it's real, it, like a real object makes a shadow, right? A real object makes a shadow. The shadow itself, though, doesn't hurt us. The shadow itself doesn't actually ever touch us. Isn't that exciting? We live in the shadow of death. It cannot harm us. It cannot touch us. It doesn't hurt us. It's there because it exists. But the reality is, because of Jesus, it will never hurt us. Because when we die and our physical life here on earth ends, we have something far greater waiting for us someday. And that's the good news of the gospel, that we, because of Jesus, will live forever with him someday. And so we go through this life with this shadow of death kind of looming out there, but it doesn't have to loom for the Christian in the same way it looms for the person who doesn't know Jesus and is afraid of the unknown. So death is there. The reality of death is always there, but it's a shadow now because of Jesus. It's there, but it actually can't touch us or harm us because Jesus conquered death when he died in our place on the cross and rose again. And so the shadow of death, that whole phrase took on a whole new meaning. Like, I feel like sometimes passages get so familiar and we just repeat it. We put it on a little picture in our home and hang it up. We, highlight it in our Bible. But I never really thought about what that meant, the shadow of death. Like I understood that it was like, death is out there. But think about what a shadow is. A shadow shows us that something is there, but the shadow can never harm us or hurt us. And for the Christian, we walk through the valley of the shadow of death. We can be close enough to death to see its shadow, but it cannot harm us. The reality of death cannot harm us because for the Christian, death is just an entranceway into our eternal and new life, our glorious life with him forever someday. So I hope this encouraged you. I'd love for you to read Psalm 23 today. It is just such an encouraging verse or passage, such an encouraging psalm. Think about your life with Jesus and how he protects you from all harm. He makes you lie down in green pastures and by the still waters, and he provides literally everything you need. There is nothing you need apart from him. If you have Jesus, you literally have all that you need. So I hope this encourages you. If it does, share it with a friend. And until the next time, I wish you all the blessings and joy in Jesus today.